2 weeks I spent in western Ukraine was pretty weird for me. Eventually, I felt that can't be apart from my city in these hard moments, so I decided to get back to Kyiv. Kyiv is not a popular destination right now, so I easily bought a ticket and was the only one passenger in my carriage.
You can't even imagine how happy I am to be back in Kyiv. But it's so strange to see my city totally abandoned. It feels so strange. It's like your city, but it's not anymore.
After 2 weeks of war, many things in your apartment now seem meaningless, such as travel posters, my blogging awards for several years, and my backyard, which has always been noisy, is now plunged into silence. Spring in Kyiv is the best time of the year. Usually there are a lot of people on the streets these days, but not today. I've been living in Kyiv for 10 years, and I have never seen city so empty and lonely. Almost all restaurants are closed, and central streets, which are usually in traffic jams, now there are no cars at all. According to statement of Vitaly Klitschko, the mayor of Kyiv, every second citizen left the city. While walking around the streets, now it seems like watching scenes from I Am Legend movie. This calmness is actually an illusion, because almost every day Russia fires missiles at the capital, and the Russian army tries to surround city from two sides, from Irpin and Brovary. According to British intelligence, Kyiv, after 3 weeks of war, remained the primary target for Russian military groups. So my aim is just to show you how the city is defending and live during the siege. My friend lent me an electric Smart to drive around the city. You see, now in Kyiv, it's a bit of a problem to find a gasoline, so electric car, it's a pretty nice solution. Driving around the city in an electric car during war is like reading a post-apocalyptic book. Moving around now is not easiest thing to do. Today Kyiv is a real fortress, big stronghold, and there is a huge number of checkpoints and reinforcements. People use anti-tank hedging dogs, which are produced by volunteers here in Kyiv, concrete blocks, and even car tires. Those life hacks are very familiar to all the people in Kyiv and was actively used during the Revolution of Dignity in 2014. In general, to see how the capital bristled, for me as a person who has lived here for 10 years, is kind of strange. As well as seeing anti-tank hedging dogs against the backdrop of skyscrapers. By the way, some of them have a certain historical value.
These anti-tank hedging dogs was taken from museum because this is original hedging dogs from 1941, so it's 75 years old and they were used to be in a Second World War.
But now, in 2022, they are still on duty. There are a lot of people with guns, and not all of them are professional soldiers. There is so-called territorial defense, volunteer formation, which now a part of army. And this forces is very popular. Everybody wants to join it. So you want to go to the territorial defense?
Of course.
But you can't?
I can't.
Because of the health?
Yes.
I think the main reason because this city, that's my country, that's the city where I was born, and literally I want to defend it. I don't want to live under any other country, any other rules or occupation. That's the main reason.
Interesting fact about this territorial defense. The lines to join this battalion is so high that a lot of my friends, even with the bribes, they can't join it. So a lot of people here, a lot of men, they wanna take the gun and protect their land from Russian military machine.
Some of the volunteers are quite famous, such as Oleg Mikhalyuta, Ukrainian musician and member of 10MK band, which is pretty popular in country. Recently, he has changed the microphone to a gun.
I'm not warrior, I'm a musician. I want to sing this song and make music every day in my studio, but now it's not possible. We have intelligence battalion, and 2 days ago we have a first guy who died. it's really impressive for me, for all of us. But our mind is strong, and our weapon in our hands will be fighting every Russian.
But for now, Russia is fighting against Kyiv with rockets. I drove through areas which were affected by the bombings. Parts of rockets fell on the nursery school and destroyed nearest buildings. I spoke to the locals, they are still in shock.
This is the fitness center. I was lucky enough to pass this place 15 minutes before the rocket hit the tower and then the gas station. So I heard the explosion like maybe a kilometer away from here.
Lukyanivka is one of the historical centers of Kiev, and it's pretty close to the place where I bought an apartment.
It's really strange feeling when you are in your own city, but you can't be safe here because the missile can hit anytime and anywhere.
Some residents use subway as a bomb shelter, and I've spent the night there talking with people. Video about it is coming soon. After that, I decided to go to my studio to pick up some stuff, and this is what I saw.
This is the result of rocket shelling in Kiev, and it's less than 100 meters away from my office, which is like behind the building.
I was walking this route for 4 years. That was my daily routine. Every day I saw these buildings, went to this pharmacy. When all this happens to you personally, it seems like the soil is slipping under your feet.
It should never be happen in the 21st century, in the center of Europe. I have no words.
This is my studio, and everything I've collected for years. YouTube buttons, photos, license plate, my shoes from Burning Man, picture of Casey Neistat in traditional Ukrainian rushnik, and painting of Kyiv, which I've bought in the first year of life here.
Imagine that you have to leave everything you love, everything you was building for 5 years, just because of some bad guy decided that he can invade the neighbor country.
The Golden Gate district is probably my favorite part of Kiev. There's a lot of graffiti, bars, coffee shops, and of course hipsters. Here, even in wartime, you can meet people dressed to the nines.
The interesting part that a lot of people haven't left Kyiv. They stay here, they help territorial defense, they just live their life here on their hometown, despite the Russian army standing maybe 30 kilometers away from the center of the city. Why didn't leave Kyiv?
I don't know actually. It just didn't feel right, I guess, and I couldn't leave my parents and I couldn't leave my friends. Just wanted to be useful, I guess.
To be honest, I even didn't have it in mind because I was born in Kiev. I've been living here for all my life. I mean, I don't have kids. I've got just 2 dogs. I don't believe that Russians could ever enter Kiev. Actually, it's just impossible.
Why don't you leave?
Because this is my home and nobody can tell me that I have to go from my home. Any orcs, any Russian peders. And by the way, my father is in the ZSU, so I hope that he will save us.
The atmosphere here in Kiev right now is much different than it was like 2 weeks ago in just the beginning. The city now is kind of more well organized. I see a lot of people, I see cars So, you know, Kyiv, spiritually a very strong city because it has like a great community. And everybody do something for the city, for the people, for the army, and everybody participating. And I would say that here in Kyiv right now, I feel like I'm more confident even when I was in the east part of Ukraine.
Am I scared? I am a little bit scared. I am secure, but not secure because the rockets are falling down from the sky. So we know there are blasts, we don't know where they are. We know that something is happening, we don't know and we don't learn about it because that's a bad thing to do. So we wait. We help, we wait, we hope.
Kyiv now is a city of contrasts. I mean, literally, you can see it everywhere. You come to your neighbor and he is on a treadmill, the usual morning routine, but he does it in a bulletproof vest. There are a lot of weapons around it, but at the same time, you can buy flowers just on the street. Walking through the city parks, you can clearly hear gunshots in the distance. But almost no one pays attention. Life goes on. This statement was also confirmed since I was invited to a secret party.
Oh my god.
Yeah, this is a party during the war. Guys made a proper event with the posters and DJ playing on vinyl. They also accept donation to support Ukrainian army. And by the way, a lot of people who are attending this event are volunteers.
What's your attitude to this kind of party during the war? Is it okay?
Yes, this is what our city needs now, to have signs of normalization of life.
We are working all day, whole day, for 1 month, and I guess these people need to rest. We need to pull our energy somewhere, so yeah, it's okay.
This charming bartender showed me her new tattoo. It means, "Good evening, we are from Ukraine." This is a part of popular Ukrainian song which became a meme. And yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, tattoo. And bartender, of course. Seeing all of these dancing people during this time is quite odd for me. But this is only support the fact that the city is still alive. I have to mention though, at the same time volunteers have been cooking food for the old people in territorial defense in a adjoining room. For me, many of the scenes I saw in Kyiv were quite surreal. Just take a minute and imagine that city you love, which became your second home, can be destroyed. This is what I discovered at that moment. And yes, it was scary. In the evening, all the streets are completely empty and plunged into darkness. The city has a curfew. You're not allowed to go outside from 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. You come home, make some food, and probably the scariest part of the day begins, because most of the rocket shelling in Kyiv happens at night. So your usual evening sounds like this. Then the explosions start. And after that, I heard this.
I heard a big explosion right now. Probably it's air defense system, which maybe shot the missile. And this is something you have to deal with staying in Kyiv these days. You cannot be confident in your security, so these things are terrifying actually.
Every time you go to bed, just one thought flickers in your head. You might not wake up tomorrow. Next day I find out that the explosion I heard at night, it was a Russian missile hit Trade Center in Kyiv. I decided to go on a spot and see it with my eyes. There was already a lot of press there, but the police wouldn't let anyone in.
For now, it's at least 8 dead.
This is what the parking looked like a few days after. When we were leaving this place, I heard this.
The atmosphere here is quite tense, and actually I think it's pretty unsafe to be here, so I decided to move on toward the city.
Next day, Oksana Bulavina, a Russian journalist, died at the same parking lot after Russian rocket shelling. She was 42. This is probably the hardest part, at least for me. I visited Ohmatdyt, the biggest pediatrical hospital in Ukraine.
In the peacetime, children were treated here for a lot of different diseases, but now, after Russia attacked Ukraine, children are brought here for mostly urgent surgery.
This is Nastya, she was my guide.
Я Антон. Приятно познакомиться.
Я знаю вас.
Varya and her mother were injured in the suburb of Irpin.
И по дороге, когда мы ехали, в 10 метрах от нас взорвалась мина.
Varya's legs. It's
These pieces?
pieces from missile attack. And one shrapnel like went through the one leg and hit another and stopped here.
Now she's fine and on the mend. When Russian soldiers shot their car, Vova and his family were trying to leave Kyiv. His father and 6-year-old cousin died right away. Vova has a gunshot wound to his face. The woman who made haircut for him said she had never been so worried in her life. On February 28, Russian missile hit their house near Gostomel. Milana's mother died in front of her eyes. Milana still makes drawings for her. Her father, now a widower, left with the 2 children.
Milana and her 9-year-old brother saw how their mother died because of this attack. They saw it, they were really in terrible psychological. Мне тоже тяжело вспоминать, я просто это видела, когда их привезли. Сейчас.
It's hard to talk about it, and not only for me or Nastya, but even for the doctors who have been working and living in this hospital for more than 3 weeks.
Before it was quiet and peaceful place for the kids. Now we admit all type of patient, especially one admitted today. It's a gunshot wound adult patient. It's very unusual for us to take off the fragments of grenades, to take off the bullets from the patients. So when you hear all these stories, when you see injured kids and so on, that's some kind of psychological scene you should deal with.
This is just a couple of stories from this hospital. As you understand now, they have hundreds of them. And while this war goes on, there will be more.
Ну не надо, ну Толь.
This is my mom. In 2014, she left our hometown Lugansk because of the war.
And when we discussed that maybe she wanna leave Kyiv, she told me that she left once, so she would never do it again. She decided to stay in Kyiv.
But at least she have enough food.
Капец. Забит.
After 2014, my mom can recognize Grad missile, artillery missile. She knows this topic better than me.
Ты умеешь ориентироваться уже? Где град, где что?
Ну, град, да. А если там 152-е, они тяжелее бьют, чем 120-е.
My mom just wanted to escape that war in 2014 and move to our capital. But 8 years later, the war found her here in Kyiv. Kyiv is slowly returning to life. Some cafes and restaurants are already open.
Despite the war, you can get a proper latte here in Kyiv. What can I say? I love the city.
You can sit outside and meet new people.
Ленька у нас уже вторую войну переживает, мы из Иловайска, из Донецкой области. Он сидел с мамой в подвале целый месяц под обстрелами.
Now Kyiv is facing really difficult times, and it's not for the first time in its history, which is over 1,000 years. City was destroyed by Genghis Khan and Hitler, but it still stands. And thanks to the spirit of Kyiv and the people who live here, who want to defend it, I truly believe that city will overcome all these trials and eventually become even stronger. So, this is Kyiv. This is my lovely city.